Well, hello everyone. It's really nice to speak to you all, especially as we're coming up to Christmas time. I'm Ruth and I'm from St Cedd's Church, and in the next 10 minutes I'm going to say a bit about Christmas. I'm going to speak about the Christmas story and then talk about some of our Christmas traditions. But first of all, why do we celebrate Christmas? Well, we celebrate Christmas to remember the birth of Jesus Christ. And Christians believe Jesus is the Son of God. Now, I'm a Christian minister and that's what I believe, and it's why I'm talking about this today to you. Now, if you want to know why we call it Christmas, well, one of the special services we have in our church is called Holy Communion. And some churches call that service, they call it a Mass. Now, Jesus is sometimes called Christ, so a special service for Jesus was called a Mass for Christ. Mass for Christ ended up as Christ Mass. That's where we get Christmas from. So let's talk about the Christmas story now. So the Christmas story is about the story of Jesus, and particularly about his birth. Now, I've got a little nativity set here, and we're going to run through that story using the little figures I've got here. And so we start off with Mary. Now, Mary was minding her own business. She's a very devout lady. She prayed a lot. And one of the times when she was praying, an angel appeared to her. And he said to her, "Mary, you're going to give birth to Jesus, and he's going to be the Son of God." Mary thought, "Oh, I wonder what that's all about." But she thought she was very favoured to be given that job to do. And so she agreed, "Okay," she said, let it be to me, whatever you want. I'm happy to do that. So the angel went away. And Mary went about her usual business, and about 8.5 months later, she was beginning to get rather big with this baby that was growing inside her. And now her partner was Joseph. They weren't married at this time. They would get married later, but at this time they weren't. Now, Joseph, he had to go to a place called Bethlehem because he had a job to do in Bethlehem, and so they set off together. Maybe they had a donkey, we don't know, but they went off. Here they go, going to Bethlehem. The time they got to Bethlehem, Mary was very tired. She was very heavily pregnant at this time, and she said, "You know what, I just need to get some rest. I've got to have a sleep." So they came across this chap. They wanted to get somewhere to stay, and so this was an innkeeper, and they said, "Look here, have you got a room we can have? We just want to get our head down and get some sleep." He wasn't all that nice, really. He said, "Sorry, mate, we've got no rooms left." But Joseph pleaded with him, "Please, we need somewhere to sleep." And so he said, "Well, if you want to go round the back of my house," he said, "there's a stable there. You'll be dry there and sheltered. You can have that if you want." "Great, that'll do us fine." So off they went. They went to the stable. And by this time, they were so tired, they just thought, "Well, we just must have a sleep." So during the night, Mary thought, "Oh dear, I think it's time for the baby to come along." So after a little while, the baby was born. This is our baby, and that's the baby Jesus. So there we are. They've now got their little baby. Well, meanwhile, out in the fields outside Bethlehem, A very dark night, but some stars in the sky, and out in those fields there were some shepherds. Here's our shepherds. There we go. And here's our sheep. And they were doing what they normally do, looking after their sheep, probably a little bit dozy. But then suddenly, in the sky, there was an angel. But actually, it wasn't just one angel, there was loads of angels. And they were singing glory to God in the highest. They looked up and thought, whatever's going on? Anyway, the angels spoke to the shepherds, and they said, do you know what? Something fantastic has happened in Bethlehem tonight. If you go into the town, you'll see the baby that's the Son of God. And if you want to go and see him, go along there and look for the baby who's in a manger, and a manger is a feeding trough. Go and find him, and that's the baby. And it's something fantastic. So they thought about it. They had a little talk amongst themselves, and they thought, do you know what? I think we will go down and see what all the fuss is about. So off they went, and they were amazed at the beautiful baby Jesus. And of course, we had to have a sheep as well. So they looked for the baby in the manger, and there we have Joseph and Mary and Jesus and the shepherds and the sheep. Now there were some kings, astronomers, something like that, some kings who had a word to say, well, there's going to be a king born, and all you have to do is follow a very bright star. And they saw a very bright star. They were astronomers, they knew all about stars, but they were kings too. And here they saw a great bright star right over the place where Jesus was born. When they saw the star, they knew that wherever the star stopped, that was where the new king was. And so here we have one of the kings on a camel. So he's all right, he's riding. And then another king here, and this king who's actually bowing before the Jesus. And they're carrying gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh. And they're the gifts for the baby Jesus. So there's our nativity scene with Mary and Joseph and Jesus, the shepherds and the kings, and animals as well, because it is a stable. So that's our Christmas story. And I'm going to put our angel up there too. So apart from this, there are some Christmas traditions I'd like to just talk about. And our first Christmas tradition is, we have this in church, this is called an Advent ring. At this time, this is the season of Advent in our church. And these candles here, they represent different groups of people, or different people, all people who were sort of evident in foretelling that Jesus was going to be born. And the first candle we light, and the 4 Sundays coming up to Christmas, first candle is for people like Abraham, Isaac, King David. They were sort of the fathers of the faith. The second candle is for prophets. Prophets lived many, many years before Jesus, but they foretold that he was going to be born in Bethlehem. People like Isaac and another prophet like Micah. The third candle is for John the Baptist. John the Baptist was born just a little while before Jesus, and he said, soon a Saviour is going to come, a Messiah, and he meant Jesus. And the fourth candle is for Mary, who we've spoken about, who gave birth to Jesus. And we have one candle left, this beautiful white candle. This is the candle we light on Christmas Day, and this is the candle that represents Jesus, and we often call Jesus the light of the world. When we light that candle, we light it because Jesus is the light of the world. The second tradition I'd like to speak about is our Christmas tree. There you go. It's a little tree, but I think it looks quite nice actually. And so this, the fact that we have Christmas trees, this was a tradition started by Queen Victoria a long while ago, and Prince Albert. And Prince Albert brought a tree into the house and decorated it. Now, we call this an evergreen tree because if this was real tree, these leaves would never fall. If you look round our local streets in the autumn, you'll know that the leaves from the trees all fall down and the tree ends up bare. This never does. This is called an evergreen tree, and it's everlasting, and it's a bit like a symbol of everlasting life in Jesus. Around Christmas time, we get lots of lights. If you go down any streets, you'll find people have put lights up in their windows. It's lovely, I love it. And we have lots of lights about, and I've got some lights on my tree. Again, to represent Jesus as light of the world. Another one is the Advent calendar. And maybe one of you or some of you might have an Advent calendar, and we have little doors here that we open. Sometimes there's a sweet or chocolate or something in it. I'm not advertising anyone, by the way. But and this is to count down the days before Christmas from the 1st of December to the 25th of December. That's our Advent calendar. And then, as I said, we have lots of lights at Christmas, and one of the things we do is have lots of candles. We use them in the home, in the church and all that, and I love candles. Again, it's all about the light at Christmas, and I've got some nice Christmassy coloured ones, red and green and gold. And the last thing to talk about is this. I bet you all know what this is. This is a present, of course. And just as the three kings brought presents of gold, frankincense, of myrrh for Jesus, it's to represent that, but also in a tradition long while ago when rich people used to give poor people boxed up gifts, often on Boxing Day. So that's the last tradition I want to talk about. Now, I do have a few questions that you very kindly sent in, and I'll just see if I can answer some of those. First question is this: why do we celebrate Christmas on December the 25th when Jesus was born in the spring? Very good question, actually. But actually, we don't actually know when Jesus was born, but it does seem unlikely that he was born in December. The reason being is we've seen acted out the shepherds in the fields at night. Well, in December it would have been very cold in that area outside Bethlehem, and the sheep wouldn't have been out on the fields. So this would have happened when the time of year when the sheep were on the fields, and that would have been between March and October. So why 25th of December? Well, it dates back a long way. About 1500 years ago, the church wanted to have a special day for everyone to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And there was already a tradition to have celebrations on the 25th of December each year. It's all to do with it being like the shortest day, the day of the year when is the least amount of light in the day. And the church linked their celebration in with that, and they made it a day for us to celebrate when Jesus was born. Second question: why do we put trees up and why do we decorate them? I've more or less answered this a bit, but just to give you a little bit more information, it's come from a tradition in Germany about 600 years ago, and people went from town to town acting out a play about Adam and Eve from the Bible. And one of the things they did was they had an evergreen tree and they had apples hanging on it, representing the Garden of Eden. And it went on from there, and they started the tradition of putting a tree in their homes. And they put candles on the branches. I said we love candles, to represent Jesus as light of the world. And last question. Can people of any religion celebrate Christmas? This is another really good question. Well, the reason for Christmas is to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And for Christians, it's a really important time. And it means a great deal to us. But Jesus was born to bring his love and forgiveness for every single person. He loves each and every one of us so much. So he doesn't ignore anyone. And the message he brings is one of love, joy, peace and hope. And that's for everyone in the world. So although it's a Christian festival, Jesus includes everyone. So all are welcome to take part and enjoy the holiday. And I like to think that at Christmas time, there's a bit more love and kindness and goodwill about, which would please him. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed our little talk, and I hope you all have a very happy Christmas. Bye-bye.